After my cancer diagnosis at the age of 32, my mom and I talked a lot about the shock of that diagnosis, given several doctors told us you're too young to have endometrial cancer. After much discussion, we began to feel driven to inform and help educate other young women about what symptoms they should be concerned.
Having both been teachers, it seemed natural for us to look for a way to share Alex's cancer journey in order to help other young women avoid such a shocking diagnosis or possibly navigate a similar path. A podcast seemed the best way to get the word out, and that's how Down There Aware was born.
4 years later, our mother-daughter duo has gone from educating and informing to advocacy and action, with a fresh and sometimes very interesting and somewhat humorous multi-generational perspective.
We look forward to sharing with you Season 4 as we advocate, take action, and make it a priority to always be Down There Aware.
Welcome back to episode 1 of season 4. We are back from a kind of a long hiatus. But we're not stopping. We thought about it.
It was a long, cold winter.
It was, but we thought we would kick off this year with just some more information about what the hiatus was for and what it was about and where we see Down There Aware going in the future.
Yeah, we went through some interesting physical challenges. Alex had surgery on August 31st. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. We, I think, shared that I, for several years, have had a pretty severely herniated discs from a car wreck. It was never really able to be determined just because of I didn't have scans prior to that happening.
But there's nothing else that it could be attributed to from what we've thought about.
Yeah, this severity, it was pretty much there had to have been an accident or an incident that happened, and that's the only one we could really kind of pinpoint. So I had been getting pretty regular pain injections to kind of mitigate that pain that I was experiencing last year about this time. I experienced horrific pain, had to go to the ER. I was out of town. That story is somewhere in some podcast episode. And anyway, long story short, ended up needing to have a discectomy where they actually cut out the part of the herniated disc material that has kind of oozed out from the middle. And they did that on 2 levels, L4, L5, and then L5S1. And that recovery is a long, arduous recovery because you can't bend, lift, or twist for 6 weeks.
So she lived with me. She stayed at our house.
I did. And
it was a fun time.
It was so fun. And I didn't just live there for 6 weeks because I thought, what a great opportunity when I'm not in my house for 6 weeks to just totally redecorate everything because I wouldn't be there. Right. So I sold all of my furniture in my bedroom, mattress, like everything I had sold. And then because of COVID and everything, there was shipping delays. So I didn't have a mattress for weeks. So mom and dad very graciously let me stay longer than intended. And then long story short, we're almost done with renovations in my, and not even renovations. I'm not talking we're taking out walls.
No, just
redecorating, repainting, things like that. So, but delay after delay, almost done. So that is what my fall was all about. But mom also had surgery just a couple weeks after I did.
Yeah, 3 weeks after yours.
Which was really funny to have 2 people who were simultaneously healing from surgery, who needed to help one another, but couldn't help one another. Yeah, it was quite interesting.
Well, and Alex has always been my go-to person for when I had surgery. She was the one in the waiting room. She talked to the doctors and all of that, and she couldn't do it. This is the first time she couldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I was just unable to be there. And so I sat next to my phone waiting for updates from a neighbor who stayed with Mom, as well as my aunt who came over and sat with her, and they would update me. The doctor just came in, this happened, that happened. And it was the challenge. And also, to add to it, Dad couldn't be there because his sister-in-law's new husband, convoluted relationship, died suddenly, unexpectedly. And so he went to that funeral on the same day as Mom's surgery, to support his nephews, who had dealt with that sudden loss. And so it was just a mess. And on top of it, well, so one of the, Mom's, this is TMI, but Mom's backyard is not fenced and mine is. So having Sadie, she needs someone to go out with her when she's at Mom's house. But at my house, you just open the door, let her out in the backyard. She does her business, comes back in. So I couldn't physically go out with her because even though I could walk outside and do that, if she ran after a squirrel, which she doesn't do so much anymore, but every now and then she will. So it's not 100%. I couldn't chase after her, and that's just, it was a danger for her and for me. So we decided that in that short span of time, I would stay at my house, and, be able to let her out and things like that. But I still didn't have a bed. So I slept on the couch. I mean, it was really just kind of a hoot, at that time, dealing with, all of the things that come with surgery and recovery and everything. But
and my recovery wasn't that big a deal because I had a new pacemaker defibrillator implanted. And the worst part of that recovery is you can't use your left arm like you normally would. You can't lift. You can't put your arm up above your shoulder. So Alex had to do my hair.
And that, if you have ever watched Mary Massey do her hair, it is a process, and it is the very specific process. And
hey, you do what works.
And I'm not dissing your process. I'm just saying she has got it down to a science, even to the point of every hairdresser, and I mean every hairdresser she's ever been to, whether it's been really, really great or they did a terrible job, she comes home and fixes her hair. How they have styled it.
I just need a good cut.
She adjusts it. So, and you've learned to deal with that and to live with that. And so it works, but it is quite funny that, I think a process that probably takes you 10 or 20 minutes, I think was like 2 hours of us. Okay, I curl this way, and then I curl that way. And then, and oh my world, this woman uses an ungodly amount of hairspray.
Well, when you are aging and your hair is thinning and it's all turned white, it's fine like a baby's hair. And so you have to have product or it just is like a pixie. It's a flat boy cut. So I'm not at the stage where I want to look like a man. So I have to
Will you ever get to that stage?
I hope not. But I have to bend it. It has to bend, and that takes product.
And I get it now. I do. I get it now. And so my chore as a child of cleaning the bathroom door, I understand now, and I've come full circle.
And alcohol works the best. Rubbing alcohol works the best on getting hairspray off. Thank you, Susie Flowers, for giving me that tip. And it does work.
Yeah,
so
it does.
You can clean your bathroom after the use of hairspray.
Mm-hmm. I've noticed in all of this catching up, we haven't talked about the biggest change of the podcast yet. We're in visual.
We're videotaping.
You might be listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever that may be. And we hope, I also will take this time to say, please subscribe so you hear when new episodes are out. But we're also launching a YouTube channel, and these episodes are all on our YouTube. So you get to kind of see our little podcast studio that we've set up. And I don't know, it can add another layer of familiarity to see facial expressions or when I roll my eyes. Or
Well, and I just had, Alex keeps telling me, listen to podcasts. And I saw, thank you, Hoda Kotb, I saw...
Mom lives and dies by Hoda and Jenna.
I do love to watch Hoda and Jenna. I like to watch their banter, and it's kind of a good way for me to start my mornings. But anyway, Hoda has a great podcast called Making Space, and I watched and I thought, I'm watching their body language, their facial expressions, and it really adds a whole new dimension. And Alex and I have talked about that for a long time, but that was kind of the precipice to go, okay, it's time to do it.
Yeah. And, we figured out a setup. If you could see what we're seeing right now, it's a little janky, but it works. And that's all that matters. And so we, are adding this layer, and we hope that it will get better as time goes on. I know my editing will need to shift, and I'll need to learn new things with video editing and things, but I'm excited to add this component.
The big difference is we aren't in our pajamas,
and we have makeup on.
A lot of times, talk about my hair. A lot of times it's wanky, and we don't have makeup on, and we're in PJs. But we may do it in PJs sometime.
I think we should. Every now and then get to our roots.
Because really the content is what's important.
Right.
And, our interaction. So we're not going to worry too much about what we look like.
No, not right now. So all of that was what we've been up to the end of 2022, really the middle of 2022 to the end of it. And then now we're in 2023, which is crazy. I have a dear friend who continues to send me things on Instagram relating to how old we are. And it's, did you know that this song was released 25 years ago? And I'm like, shut up. It was released 2 years ago. No, that was my 5th grade song. It was not, 25 years ago. But we are in 2023, and we have decided and kind of talked over why did we start the podcast? What has it done in the last 3 years? Where do we want it to go in the future? And I think we've landed on a pretty good path of what we're looking to do.
Yeah, we really initially, because we were so taken aback by Alex's diagnosis and her being so young, we felt like it was important to get that word out, that just because you're young doesn't mean you can't have endometrial cancer or uterine cancer or any of the gynecologic cancers. Even though that has kind of been how doctors looked at the data, things are changing, and we felt it really important to get that word out. And we feel like we've done that. So we want to move on a little bit more into advocacy and in action. What can we do?
Yeah. And I think if I'm completely honest, I was naive and a little Pollyanna about we'll start this podcast and we'll have millions of followers and people will understand how important this is and they will want to get the word out too. And our listeners are incredible, and we're so excited for the platform that we have built. But we really want a further reach because it's so important to get this word out. And even, Mom says the data's changing and doctors are kind of shifting in their beliefs and all. And that's our exit music. I didn't mute that channel, but hold on. There we go. Okay. See, all of this new fun stuff is going to happen because of the video. But I just had a checkup, my 6-month regular checkup with my gynecologic oncologist. And I saw the PA as I do every other time. And we got to talking about how young I was when I was diagnosed. And I mentioned that on the Facebook group that I'm a part of, or in the Facebook group I'm a part of, in that week, 2 or 3 people had joined and posted, I'm new here, I was just diagnosed. They were all under 30. And she was like, I've never seen anyone under, the youngest person we have is 31. And I was like, okay, but we're in Tallahassee, not a huge metropolis. And so certainly there are other people. And these women were 25, 27, 29, and just an incredibly young age. And so it still is not as current with providers that it is possible, and that people need to get checked. I will say, after we had that conversation, she said, I'm so glad you came in when you saw symptoms. And I was like, yeah, but I didn't know that they were symptoms of cancer.
Exactly.
I only went in because I didn't want to bleed as much as I was bleeding. I was anemic. I was fainting. I didn't want to deal with that. I had no idea that it could have been cancer. Probably would have gotten checked earlier.
Yeah.
Because I had just kind of dealt with it, right? Like a lot of us do. So all of that kind of led me to what's next. And I've been following for a long time an Instagram account called Check Me Up UK. Shout out to them. They're amazing. And they are a movement in the UK who is trying to get symptoms of gynecologic cancers listed on period products. And they were inspired because a woman who had rectal cancer had a campaign in the UK, and now the largest toilet paper manufacturer in Britain lists all of the symptoms of rectal cancer on their packaging every time you buy toilet paper. And so she wants to replicate this in period products. And after I read that, I said, that's really great. Surely somebody's doing that in the US. And they're not. So we have decided that we want to do it.
And we're going to talk a little more specifically about that in the next episode.
Because I got ahead of myself. I need to look at my notes. That's what happens when Mom leaves it to me.
But anyway, we've done some research, and we're going to really work toward making a difference where that is. We're thrilled that the UK is dealing with it in that country. So we need to work on it here. And
we decided, okay, that's what our focus is going to be. And we're going to talk more in detail about how we're going to do that next episode. But in order in the US to do that efficiently and effectively, unless you are extremely wealthy, you have to have nonprofit status. So that's our first hurdle of 2023. My background, very briefly, is I studied nonprofit management in a master's program. And so I'm familiar with the process. So we're going to do it ourselves.
And you've already taken the first step.
Yeah, we've already taken the first step. So we have established a corporation. We are Down There Aware. Nobody has that name. I'm kind of shocked, but I'm very excited.
They're not Down There Aware.
Exactly. That's why we need to get the word out. So we are going to create a nonprofit. My goal is to have our paperwork filed in the next month so that we can get through all of our checks and balances, and then it's just a waiting game. If you live in the US, government processes take a long time, but we're going to do our best to get that done quickly so that we can start then applying for funding and grant money to help us in getting the word out and hopefully changing packaging feminine products and what they look like.
Yeah. And speaking of your last visit, you might want to update everybody on how that went. And
it went great.
What that looks like.
So I am in my final year of surveillance. It's a 5-year process. And so in this last year, I have blood work every 6 months where they check my CA 125 level, which is just kind of a cancer marker. And then I have a physical exam every 6 months. So everything looked good. There was a hiccup with the blood work that...
Well, and I think that's important. I was going to bring it up if you didn't. I think it's important to touch on that.
Yeah. So generally speaking, I have blood work before the appointment, and then the provider talks about the blood work, what my numbers look like at the appointment. And this one, they didn't schedule blood work. And so I made the assumption, and I've been doing this for how many years? And anyway, I still made an assumption that that's just the way it's done.
And what did your mother say about that? For all the moms out there, what did your mother say?
You can't do that. You need to be your own advocate. You need to ask questions.
I said, why didn't they do blood work? You need to ask about that.
I don't need it. Well, 2 days later, I get a phone call from that office. I'm like, why are they calling me? I was just there. They had forgotten to put in the appointment for blood work. So I went that day, got blood work. Haven't gotten that back yet, but last time it was fine. So we'll see. And then they also changed, they had made my 6-month appointment in July with the same PA. And I was like, okay, well, I'm at the end. I'm just going to see the PA again, whatever. And they changed it that I'll see the physician. So
because it would have been a year.
It would have been a year. I see her in July, typically. So, but I have 2 or 3. I'm kind of unsure if I have July and January left or July left, because I was diagnosed in July of 2019. But we're coming on the tail end of surveillance, and when I can finally say cancer-free, no worries, moving on. And it's kind of hard to believe that it's been 5 years, but almost, well, it's been 4.
Yeah. No,
not 5.
It will be 4 in
July.
Be 4.
Okay, so 3.5.
Yeah, you're not.
I'm rounding up.
You're rounding way up.
Okay, rounding up.
Okay.
So that's where we're at with that. But, I have struggled with my cancer wasn't bad enough. And so having a podcast about my cancer story, it's not... I'm not going through chemotherapy. I'm not going through radiation treatment. I'm not, having genetic work done, all these things where it might be interesting for people to learn about the cancer journey. Mine kind of ended, and it's just like, well, we're just waiting and seeing if anything's there. But I think nowadays with modern medicine, that's a lot of people's experience.
Exactly. And it's important for them to hear from somebody who's been there because of things like what you just talked about with the hiccup and with the blood work. It's important to hear other people's stories so that you can maybe not make the same mistakes or be more diligent than you normally would have been. And
just to feel comfort in knowing that it's okay that you didn't go through other therapies and you didn't have to have other medications or treatments because we were able to catch it early enough that surgery worked or, another therapy worked. So, and
I think too, and I don't want to speak for the cancer patient, but for the cancer patient's mother, you're kind of always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Well, the cancer patient certainly is too.
Exactly. That's what I would think. and so it's nice to know that sometimes the other shoe doesn't drop and you can be okay with that.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because, my cancer was contained in the uterus. And
for the most part,
no, it was.
They
found 3 cells in a lymph node. Anyway, the tumor was in the uterus. This is serving my point, Mom. So, but my hysterectomy took my uterus, my cervix, and my fallopian tubes,
and the lymph node that they found,
and the lymph node, 2 lymph nodes. That's how they found it. And left my ovaries. And so the physical exam, she's not down there 10 seconds, literally like
there's not a whole lot to look at.
There's not a whole lot to look at, but the doctor has explained to me previously that if cancer is going to come back for me, it will come back in the vagina. That's where it will come back. So that's why they're looking there physically. So I don't know what they're looking for. I don't know if it's like really obvious, because they're certainly not inspecting anything. I don't have a pap smear anymore, so there's no cells or samples taken. But I think that's why they do the blood work, to see if, the marker has gone up and they need to do more investigation. And like we've talked about, I've had I was doing annual CT scans, which they don't do after year 3. And in that, they found something that looked a little funny, and then they did a PET scan, and then that ended up just being a hernia, so there were all kinds of things. Nothing ever came back cancer, but they did continue investigating if they saw something that wasn't quite right. So we'll see how my blood work goes, and if it goes well, I'll go back in July. If not, I'll probably have some other kind of scan and have an update, but that's it for now.
So that kind of catches everybody up on what's been happening and a little bit of looking ahead to what we hope to get done. And we have some other things planned that we're checking into, and we're real excited about sharing those.
Yeah, I feel like we kind of got started chaotically, may not be the right word.
Yeah.
But unorganized maybe, in that we didn't really know the podcasting space. We didn't really know the advocacy space. And we have really figured that out, I think, in the last 3 years. And so moving forward, we have a plan. We're excited about it. And we're ready to get the word out so that more people can be down there aware.
Yeah. And it's kind of fun to hang out again. And
we stopped hanging out completely.
No,
we just did not hang out.
We did not.
This is the only time that we spend together.
But it's kind of good to have a focus rather than sitting in our pajamas watching TV.
That's really fun, though. And I will have to say, today we delayed recording a little bit. Mom came over a few hours ago and delayed recording because it was pouring down rain, and so it was very loud. There was thunder, and then Sadie was shaking, and so we just kind of put it off, and we both looked at each other and said we would be much more comfortable in this rain in our PJs. But we got up, we got ready for y'all, and we are excited to do more, not just on YouTube with posting these episodes, but we're gonna really work toward getting more out on TikTok. That's a platform that is really, it's easy to engage folks. It's short form. So, that quick-minded need for newness every 3 minutes is a little bit easier. So hopefully we're going to be able to do that as well. So if you're not following us, do it. We are Down There Aware everywhere you can find us on TikTok, Twitter. The video just cut out, so I'll have to figure out what that means. Sorry that the video cut short. It might just be black with our sound. But anyway, so TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest even, and now also on YouTube. And we're going to have more engagement on TikTok. So check us out on all those places. If you are not subscribed already to your favorite podcast platform, to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform, go ahead and do that. You get a notification every time we post a new episode. And I don't know that we talked about this. We're going back to weekly episodes.
Yes. Oh, on Thursdays.
On Thursdays. It's new. It's different. And so this is one of the things that I'm talking about and being organized and being intentional. We did a little bit of research and discovered that Thursdays are the best day to launch your podcast. There are more listeners on Thursdays for whatever reason. Mondays just don't have a lot of traffic. And so we shifted, and we have a new recording schedule and a new everything schedule. And so we're excited to put out new episodes every Thursday. And that means that we're even going to work around our 2-week trip to Germany in March.
We'll record ahead of time.
We will. So we're really excited about that. But thank you for joining us on this journey. And we are excited to share more in our next episode. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Down There Aware. Be sure to like and subscribe on our new YouTube channel, as well as on your favorite podcast platform. You can find us at Down There Aware on all social media sites: Twitter, Pinterest, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. If you have it, we're there at Down There Aware. You can learn more on our website, www.downthereaware.com, and always get in touch with us, downthereaware@gmail.com. See you next week.